Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Duval Dive live here. Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game of Fans First Sports Network.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And of course, no Jacksonville Jaguar fan or member of the Duval Dive is particularly happy today, I'm sure. The Jags fall short in their first road game of the season in Cincinnati to the Bengals. 31-27, the high-scoring affair that we both expected if you listen to Wednesday's edition of the Duval Dive. So we were able to look smart as analysts in certain places, but there were so many things that happened that we could not have predicted in this ball game. I kind of want to focus at the end of the game first. I know you and I are going to get to the nitty-gritty of the good and the bad, but there's at least one thing that I thought was spotty. Hear me plugging, by the way, my wrap up, the good, the bad, and the spotty. That'll be out dropping soon on Fans First Sports Network. But let me get your take on this. And I know that the fact that it came to a couple singular plays like this is a bigger problem for the Jags in this game. We will get to that outright. What did you think of the penalty called on Travis Hunter at the end for the face guard? I didn't see it personally. I know he didn't turn his head back to the ball, but he made a play on the ball before any real contact was made. I think that was an absolutely terrible call, and the NFL officials affected the outcome of a game yet again.
Agreed. I mean, I think there's no disagreement to be had here. And that's not me looking at this with teal colored glasses. That's
why I led. I didn't want anybody calling you a homer. I'm bringing this up because as a 49er fan, that call was straight trash. And these guys get paid to do that. No, there were some close calls that I feel like the refs kind of missed. Maybe it's interpretation. Cool. No, they just straight up blew this. Should it have come down to this call? No. But this was absolutely terrible. And this is pure victimhood of Travis Hunter, in my opinion.
No, that you absolutely called it. Like there is no argument to be made that was even a reasonably good call. They got the home cooking. I mean, unfortunately, when you're playing on the road, you have to assume that some of these calls just aren't going to go your way because of where you're playing and the environment you're playing in. I mean, these guys, unfortunately, referees are humans, and they're going to just make some calls simply because they're surrounded around these people that aren't on their side, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
the fans. Sure. Unfortunately, that's the case. So you can't allow it to be that close. There's two different conversations, obviously. The one conversation of, well, obviously you can't allow this game to be as close as it ended up being, in the first place with you having the lead and going against a backup quarterback. But also,
I don't even want to take it there yet. Let's stick to still late in the fourth quarter, the decision by Coach Liam Cohen to go for it on fourth and 5. Okay. In there instead of getting the 6 points, the throw to Brian Thomas Jr. That ended the way it did. They did not get the fourth down. They he dropped the ball basically.
Yes.
A, did you like going forward on fourth there? And B, what did you think of the play call itself?
So interestingly, I'm having this argument for a good 20 minutes. I mean, even when the game at that point is over. With the guys over from the Meal and Teal podcast and the guys over from Happy Hour Sports, they allowed me to be on their pregame show. So we were here in Jacksonville at the Igloo, arguing about the Jaguars' decision on doing this beforehand. And honestly, everyone else kind of had disagreements. I thought Liam Cohen actually did make the right decision in that situation.
Me too.
And that's with no hindsight. That's just me saying it actively. Despite the fact that they lost that game, I thought trusting your guys was the right decision in general. Like, hey, I'm trusting my offense to win the game now. And even if they didn't get it, I'm trusting that my defense is going to be able to stop these guys. And if they did, I'm still going to get the ball on this side of the 50, more likely than not. And if there wasn't that horrible pass interference call on 4th and 5 against Travis Hunter, that's exactly how this thing probably works out.
It was 4th down when that play was made. So the game's over for all intents and purposes. 100%.
They had 3 timeouts. They did have their timeouts at that point. I believe they had 2 of their 3 timeouts at that point. So it wouldn't have been necessarily over, but in more, for all intents and purposes, we'll say.
That's exactly, exactly. It would have been close to running the ball. At the very least, they would have been in a situation where there are no timeouts, any of that. I mean, they would have been throwing the ball. Maybe they would have made their way. That's all good and well. And
Now, now PJ Brown is in the comments saying
no, I'm not even going there yet.
Well, no. You just said the same. You said the same thing. So I'm really responding to you.
Oh,
but
okay.
he says the same thing that you just said as far as if you run the ball. And in my head, I'm like, you know what? You're not wrong. When you are averaging over 5 yards to carry, no matter who's carrying the ball, you probably should have ran the ball, more throughout the game. But I do understand
That's not the statement. Yeah, I mean at the end there.
But at the end of the game on that series, you're behind the sticks because you lost yards on your first down play. You don't have the ability to run the ball.
We're still not talking about the same thing. Now, what I'm saying is if the refs didn't blow the game with the call, and the Jags get the ball back, the way they secure the victory with all intents and purpose is to run at that point. Now he's saying run the ball here and there. I got to tell you, PJ's got some there. I'll get back to it later because I hear a lot of stuff in the comments going after Trevor Lawrence, and I have to say, there's only really one play that I absolutely think is 100% Trevor's fault. There were too many drop passes. Brian Thomas Jr. on an effort scale today was absolutely awful. Yep. There's too many times this dude's going up with one hand. You got two hands, Brian Thomas Jr. Get the ball. You were targeted 4 times. 8 of them didn't connect. 3 of them you touched
14 times. Yeah, 14
was it
times.
14? Okay, there you go. So, I forgot. I did before.
I don't have it pulled up on my. I don't have it pulled up where I am, but let's just because I'm in a dead zone, I guess. But let's just go with Brian Thomas Jr. had 4 receptions. I know for a fact he was targeted at least 12 times, even though I believe it might have been 14.
14 sounds right because again, I didn't count the final drive there at the end, so he might have 13 or 14. That's a good call by you.
But at the end of the day, that is the hardest thing because again, this is a different argument that I had in the pregame show. Someone said I wanted to see Brian Thomas Jr. with 10 targets this game, and my immediate response was no. I want to see whoever's open would get those targets. I want to see Brenton Strange get those targets because every time I see that guy get targeted, he's catching the ball. I want to see De'Ami Brown get targeted because every time I see that guy targeted, for the most part, he's catching the ball. He did have the one drop today, De'Ami Brown, in the touchdown, and that hurts a lot. In a game this close, that ended up hurting because the Jaguars weren't able to score a touchdown on that drive. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how the ball rolls. I'm not going to slam a guy for making a mistake in a game, though it's a tight game. Because that was another argument that was had. Again, lots of arguments today. If you can't tell, there was lots of anger after that loss. But nevertheless, it was the fact that they had a few drops. They had the interception off Brian Thomas' hand that you previously mentioned. When essentially, I hate to call it a business decision, but I don't think there's anything else. It was a business decision. Yeah. He saw the contact coming. He put his hand up in the air. It tips the ball in the air, and it's an interception. You can't have that. And then you can't have the 4th and 5 drop when you realistically probably would have converted that first down for the game. That is your opportunity to close out the game, and it doesn't work because you just didn't make the play. That hurts. That I know it happens. That doesn't change the fact that it was a pretty rough day at the office for you. And then you have that many targets to come away with 4 catches in a game you lost by 4 points. Ooh, that's just a rough thing. He's gonna have to chew on for a little bit. Like, I know he's not happy with himself, and I get it, but it is what it is.
I do want to jump to Trevor Lawrence, though. I feel like we mentioned the Brian Thomas piece where he made the business decision. That was one of the interceptions. I don't think it was his fault. Where I'm going to take Trevor to the woodshed, and I absolutely hate this particular thing. This is the thing that we've been criticizing Trevor over is certain decision-making, certain need to force plays.
Yep.
That sack, which wasn't, right? It was an interception, actually. Listen, I understand that Walker Little got blown up by Trey Hendrickson. But, Travis, tell me where I'm getting this wrong. The one guy the Bengals have on defense that you should give it a single damn about is lined up on the left side. You should be thinking, hey, there's a chance, because I know he doesn't have help. I'm the quarterback. You're already feeling it. There's a chance he might get blowed up. If that happens, I'm going to tuck the ball and let Cam Little do the chip shot that, I mean, he's eating some cookies on the sideline. He can eat him and make this kick. I'm not worried about all that. Instead, forces the ball, take points off the board, which at the key end of it, made the difference, Travis. I mean, what can you add to that, I guess? Because I'm hearing you. Yeah, you're giving me, for those who are listening to the podcast later, Travis is giving me that preacher clap that when I know I get it right when I get the clap. I'll put it that way.
No, that was you hit it on the head. Like, and this was always my point when the play originally happened with the Walker Little pressure giving up to Trey Hendrickson that caused the interception on the ball intended for Travis Hunter in the early parts of the game. That ended up being one of the bigger plays in the game. And I know folks may not even think about it because they're like, well, no, you still have a whole 3 quarters to go. That can't be the play of the game. No, that was absolutely, in my mind, the play of the game because it wasn't just a turnover. It was a turnover in the red zone. So that ends up being a 14-point swing overall in the game because you gave it up in chip shot field goal range, and it realistically should have been a touchdown. I say realistically should have been a touchdown because when you look at the sky view of that play,
good call.
Travis Hunter coming out of the break is open. And I don't mean like NFL open. I mean like college, like high school, wide
Max
open.
Hill was beat. Can we just call it what it is?
As Trevor Lawrence's back foot hits that ground, Travis Hunter is open. And unfortunately, for fill in the blank reason, he's a half second too short. And when I made that comment, I'm not sure if it was Connor or I'm not sure if it was Connor or if it was Slash that states it. They're like, but you're talking about the difference of a half second. And I'm like, yes, I'm talking about the difference of a half second. But you know what the difference of a half second is in NFL terms? The difference of a half second from the top of the league, the fastest guy in time to throw in the league is normally around 2.3 seconds. The guy who's at 2.8 seconds, that's half of a second, is normally like 30th in the league. Half a second is how you get from terrible to elite. Like, that is what half a second is in NFL terms. So I'm not judging Trevor Lawrence on basic football talk conversations. I'm judging Trevor Lawrence on, hey, man, you got to get that ball out and you got to know this is coming. And this is a 3-step drop within the red zone on an 8-yard route. You don't have you don't have that extra half second. You got to get the ball out. And unfortunately, he was a tick late and he got hit as the ball was thrown. And it ends up being an interception. And then it's real unfortunate because I thought that was the biggest play of the game.
Yeah, it was a momentum shift. It was an opportunity to have the Bengals still with Joey Burrow on the field down 2 scores early in the game. You scored both of your first 2 drives. One of your main points from Wednesday was to keep the game close early here, right? Point number 2 in your top questions. And not only did they achieve that, they could have been ahead by 2 scores. Again, something that could make a difference, and anything you can do to leave that team believing is just an issue. I mean, this
and that stinks because, again, the whole purpose of keeping the game close, the whole conversation that we had surrounded that, for anyone who missed it, please go and check out Thursday night's Duval Dive podcast, the preview show. But the whole purpose of that conversation was to say, we know the Jaguars want to be able to run the damn ball. We know they want to be efficient and control the game. And we also know they wanted to be able to control the flow of the game because they didn't want to be in a shootout with this type of team that's as explosive as the Bengals can be. So by running the ball, by keeping the game close, you were going to be able to kind of control the flow of the game to however you wanted it to go. I think in a lot of ways, this game did go as far as offensively. Offensively, I think the game went exactly how the Jaguars wanted it to go.
For the most part.
Except for the turnovers.
Right.
But that's a big except for because the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, Jaguars defense did their job in some ways. And it stinks to have to say that in some ways.
I think you're being entirely too mean. You as the defensive guy. Now, I'm going to put Tyson Campbell over in a bubble because the way he got abused by T. Higgins so bad that not only did he get abused down the field, his effort to tackle him actually set a pick to keep Dewey Wingard coming over to save his behind. That was pathetic. I got you. But I think there are times when the defense, listen, Jamar Chase is just going to Jamar Chase sometimes. That's the fact. I'm not even mad about that part. But when on what was it? It was the first 3rd down of the game. And by the way, PJ, now it's time to get this out with the run the damn ball. It's 3rd and 2, and you're throwing it.
Don't run it through a mother face. Like, that's when you – now, Bucky, we had the podcast with Bucky on Wednesday, and there was a 10-minute conversation where we went back and forth talking about this. Bucky, former NFL player, former college player also, me, a former college player. We're having this conversation talking about locker rooms. talking about the mentality behind football, talking about, hey, what happens when a coach calls a play that is atypical to who they say they are, and the impacts of that. We had that conversation. And again, if anybody missed it, go and check it out. But the gist of it is it goes back to like that Carolina Panthers game. The Carolina Panthers were facing a 3rd and 2 and a 4th and 1 situation, and they passed the ball. And immediately in the media, you had guys from the Carolina Panthers being asked about those plays, and their first response is, "Hey, man, I just ran the play that was called." And we know what that means. If you played college football, you played NFL football, you know what that means. That means I didn't appreciate that call. I would have rather he done the thing that he claimed we are. If the Jaguars claim they're a physical team, they claim they're a run team, they're a run first team, you got to try to run the ball at that point, especially how dominant they had already been at running the ball. That's where I do agree with PJ. It's 3rd and 2. Slam that in. And if you don't get it, it's 4th and 1. Do it again.
Now, this is why I'm pounding the table so hard to give the defense a little bit of props. Dewey Wingard making what I might say is the most athletic play I've ever seen him make with that interception. Saved Liam Cohen's behind on that because he got the ball back. And who would you know it later on 3rd and 4, by the way, 3rd and 4, 2 extra yards, smashes LaQuint Allen through the middle of the line. Mm-hmm. What are we doing here, Travis C. Holmes? I was throwing things to again as the guy who isn't a card-carrying member of the Duval Devout.
But let me be real clear about this, because I had this argument with a few people in the offseason, like heading up to the first few games. We could never expect perfection from this staff. This is the first time staff in a lot of ways. Like, I'm not just saying that for the defense, but yeah, that is also true. Like, Liam Cohen is a first time head coach. If he misses a review here or there, I'm going to be like, all right, I get it. I'm not going to slam him. Or same thing with the defensive coordinator.
The review you're referring to early in the game where they had the ball knocked out with Joe. I wouldn't, or I don't mind him throwing that flag for
You're on the road. You're on the road. I understand throwing the flag. You kind of have to throw that flag and just kind of see where it lands. Mm-hmm. I also was pissed off that the referees blew the whistle short because Devin Lloyd wasn't down.
I didn't want to give people flashbacks of Miles Jack, but I had that same feeling, sir.
No, it was absolutely flashbacks. It was PTSD because Devin Lloyd wasn't down, and that was also a touchdown. But it doesn't matter because we can talk about this and saying kumbaya and hold hands and wallow in our sadness. But at the end of the day, the Jaguars did not capitalize on that prime opportunity against a backup quarterback. And it's weird because Jake Browning, objectively in all measurable analytics you want to say, or statistics you want to claim, played better than Joe Burrow in this game. And when Joe Burrow left the game, this game had mightily in hand for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then Jake Browning comes in and says, I don't know about this whole calling the offense thing. I'm just gonna throw the Jamar Chase until y'all stop him. And we never stopped him. That's when the game truly began. Unfortunately, I would have felt more confident if Joe Burrow would have stayed in this game, because that's how bad he was struggling against this defense. And then Jake Browning, with deja vu, again comes in and just kind of does this to Jacksonville, like as he did in 2023.
There's a couple things too I want to come down with, and I'm not picking on you, PJ. You're just the comment I saw with the Travis needs to play defense. Listen, Travis Hunter was at 20 snaps in the first quarter or half. Early, he had 20 snaps under his belt. Okay, at some point, folks, you got to lose the narrative when he's hitting the field a lot. Okay.
Well, no, absolutely. And he was gimped up at one point, because at one point on the sideline, he was limping on the sideline. They took him out for a few series.
Yep.
So this is not a, hey, Travis Hunter should have played more kind of conversation. This is just, he played what he played, and we'll see what the final stats look like. But I don't think he played like not enough. We knew they were going to ramp it up some. But my expectation going into this game, and I said it on Thursday's Duval Dive, was that I thought Jarian Jones was still going to have the third most snaps, and I believe he did, despite the fact that he was also injured at one point in the game.
With his back, correct. And I'll even add this. If that ref doesn't blow that call, we're not having this conversation, because he made the game-winning stop, right? So,
But can we call it a spade, man? Like, again, I'm going to ride that line on both sides. I'm going to be real. Like, the ref doesn't make that call, the game is objectively over. Absolutely true. And I agree with you 100%. But also, the Jaguars allowed that game to come down to that play happening
and
because
that's
they
correct.
fumbled it on so many different occasions that we can point to 7, 8 different plays throughout this game, offensively, defensively, etc. Jarian Jones giving up that, not being able to get his head around and giving up the one-handed catch to Tinsley, his first NFL catch. I believe it's the only catch in the game.
Can we give the young man a little credit for making a hell of a play, though? Like, it wasn't
I expect one of my top corners to be able to make that play against a guy who doesn't have any NFL catches, who had 0 catches last year. I'm sorry, that's my expectation.
I get that. That's
if you're the Bengals wide receiver 4, 5, 6. I expect my cornerback 2 or 3 to be able to make that play every damn time.
The dude made the catch of his life practically, though, man.
Good for him. They ain't got nothing to do with Jarian.
All right, okay. And I'm mad at you coaching it that hard. It's hard for me to hold that against it without us having already talked about Tyson Campbell, which we did earlier.
But I think that play and the series and that series that led up to it is what actually got the Jaguars out of blitzing Jake Browning so much. Like they were rushing him 6 and 7 guys pretty religiously for that, the series before that when they got the 3 and out. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then all of a sudden he's just like, I'm just going to throw this thing up to Jamar Chase. And Tyson Campbell was struggling to stop him because he's freaking Jamar Chase, or even the T. Higgins touchdown. And then you have the touchdown to Tinsley. And at that point, moving forward, they just kind of stopped blitzing. And then you have a whole different ball game because now you have Jake Browning sitting back there comfortable. And you can't let him be comfortable. So that's where it comes down to. You have to have guys who are good enough to stop. If you got to double Jamar Chase, you got to double Jamar Chase. Then you need a second guy who's going to be good enough to stop T. Higgins one-on-one if you're going to go man. And that's where the Jaguars kind of like lost this bad boy. They played a lot of zone, and they did well playing zone. But all zone turns into man eventually. Right. And Jake Browning was smart to know that. He just know, hey, man, if y'all go deep, eventually this is going to turn into my man is better than your man ball. And that's kind of how he did it. That's kind of how he won it.
And it's that pullback that allowed that to continue to happen at points of the game. By the way, the other aspect I know I brought up on Thursday with our game preview, I'm looking at the sacks for our edge rushers once between the two of them. However, Eric Armstead did get involved. I said the Jags would need 3 sacks with their front 4 to get the job done. They did not do that. Foye Oluokun, of course, getting the 3rd sack. So, yeah, the front 4, you are criticizing your guys in the back. Fine, that's where you live. The front 4 failed us today here, if I'm looking at it as a Jaguar fan. Getting in there only twice with your front 4 with that much injury with a backup quarterback who is not mobile particularly is a failing. I don't care how you slice that.
Yep.
So if they're not getting that penetration with the front 4 and they're pulling back blitzing, of course the other side is going to score more than 30 points. So
I mean, I definitely agree. But it just stinks because it didn't feel like he had a boatload of time. It didn't feel like Jake Browning was back there just like taking his time, and it felt like he was doing 3-step drops, 5-step drops, and just throwing fade balls, throwing go balls, and ever so often he'll hit a guy in the middle of the field to kind of keep the sticks and stay on top of the sticks and stay on schedule. But overall, these were ISO routes down the sideline. This was my guy is better than your guy. This is old Aaron Rodgers plays. You don't have to get that from the coach. I'm calling this in the huddle. I can draw this up. Hey man, you go. I'm gonna throw it backside or forward. That's it. We got to get our heads back around and get our hands on the ball. And Travis Hunter was able to do that on that 4th down play. It stinks that it was called pass interference because he didn't get it around, but he made a play on the ball and he didn't impede the receiver's route before the ball got there at all.
Contact, correct.
But later in the game, when they stopped blitzing, you then saw Tyson Campbell make a play on the ball on, I believe it was T. Higgins, because he had his head back around towards the quarterback. That's what they were struggling on most of the time. Is the defenders had their back to the quarterback. They couldn't get their hand on the ball, and those tall receivers with hops for the Cincinnati Bengals were just able to just climb over these guys over and over and over again, and that became that was the game, man. That's it.
I'm not going to go this far, but apparently having issues with Jarian Jones. By the way, I bring this comment up more for anything else to point out. The short is out there, by the way, on the Duval Dive TikTok and YouTube channel there, in the socials, that I had said getting my Travis Preacher clap as I say it, that I thought Jarian Jones and Travis Hunter and how they covered T. Higgins was important. I don't feel like they did awful. I don't know about Jarian needing to bench and never play outside again. That's a bit extreme.
I didn't think Jarian played awful in any way. I thought he gave up that touchdown catch that I was just so energized about, we'll say. That one. But outside of that, I didn't think Jarian had a bad game overall at all. Like if you want to point to a corner and say a corner had a rough go of it today, I'm sorry. I'm pointing at Tyson every time. I'm going to my cornerback one who is being targeted. And it seemed not to matter if it was Jamar Chase or if it was T. Higgins. If whoever Tyson was on, it very much seemed like, hey, no, his name was circled on the whiteboard. That's unfortunate.
Storm the Desert jumps in. Hunter was effective on defense. He was the best corner we had today. Do you agree with that?
I would need to rewatch the tape to come to that conclusion. I'm not sure if it's true or not. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying I don't know enough.
You're saying it's a premise worth checking out. Okay, I can live with that answer. Yeah, 100%. Let's see. Got some. Again, you guys are exchanging in the comments too. We love to see that.
The penalties were also really rough.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, go ahead.
More so than last week, and that's the weird part about it. These were not penalties where it was holding and things of that nature. And I'm even willing to discount. I'm even willing to waive off some of the PIs because I thought multiple of them were questionable. But when you have five illegal shift penalties, these are pre-snap penalties. In addition to, I believe they had one false start. Oh, well, it wasn't a false start. It was another pre-snap penalty. I just figured exactly what it was. Again, I don't have my second phone on me to pull up the stats.
Right.
Yeah, that you just can't have. And even though they had 4 of them that were declined, they were declined because you didn't succeed on the down. So either way, you weren't going to be successful. You got to get out your own way, man.
I could tell you this. I don't remember what the 5th one is. The 6th one is obviously the one that isn't a penalty because the officials are terrible at their job on Travis Hunter. There were 4 illegal shifts. Now, this is that element to, do you think it was 5 total? Okay, so then that's it, man. Then that's it. All 5 of them were illegal shifts.
Yeah, there were 5 there were 5 at halftime.
Okay. Okay, which is fascinating. By the way, let me make sure. Oh, you know what? I might have been looking at the wrong number. Let me check again with the penalties here right quick on the fly because this is great.
Yeah. So
it's 6 total. I had it right.
So what happened is that at halftime there were 2 accepted penalties, but they had 5 illegal formations because they declined them because they were unsuccessful. On the plays, so the play still went through, but they were unsuccessful, so they declined the penalty. The penalty still happened.
It was a 5th, it was just declined. Now that makes sense. Okay, I follow you now. Okay, yeah. There was, and we're back to the hey, you're getting used to the Liam Cohen offense. Okay, great, but listen, you're hosting the Texans next week. It's time to clean that bleep up, right? I mean,
yeah, the game that matters most. It's not to say this game didn't matter. But I want to keep it a buck and say exactly what I said before the game, what I was saying, like literally the week before the game. So this, just to be clear, this is not me trying to change the narrative now that the game is over. I've often said, hey, this is a measuring stick game, cool. But I don't care where this team is now as much as I care where this team will be at the bye week because I view this Jacksonville Jaguars team similar to how I viewed the 2022 Jaguars, similar to how I viewed the 2023 Green Bay Packers. I view this team as a young team who is hopefully going to be ascending at that bye week so you can see what they're going to truly be by the playoffs if you are a playoff team later down the line as they continue growing, making those mistakes. That's how I view them. So I'm staying consistent. This wasn't the roller coaster. This was old day cardiac cats in all the ways, but I'm not freaking out because I said it moving up to this game, and I'm going to continue being at the same spot is who will you be? But I think this is a good starting point. I think that Jacksonville Jaguars offense gives me much to be hopeful for, and I hope they continue building on top of that.
Yeah, and I keep seeing into the comments, so I'm going to address this. Run the ball is coming up a lot. Could the Jags have run the ball more? Travis and I broke down earlier a situation absolutely with that 3rd and 2 for the first 3rd down of the 3rd quarter after the half there. That's certainly one instance. At the end of the game, though, The play worked. Brian Thomas Jr. having a garbage day at the office was the problem there. It's impossible for me to blame the coach when the play worked when he basically had no one around him.
That's the unfortunate part that you're 100% correct on. And that was, again, that's why I was arguing when someone said they want Brian Thomas Jr. to have a designated number of targets for him. And I'm like, no. That's earned. And if the play says that he's open, cool, give it to him. Yes, but if he's not achieving those catches, then give it to the guys who are going to make the plays. I don't care who that is. Win the game.
Because I still think they're stuck in last year's thinking, Travis, the people who feel that way, the Duval Dive who feel that way, which, I mean, I don't blame members of the Duval Dive for PTSD. But let's remember, this isn't last year. There's other weapons, right? De'Ami Brown had an excellent game. Parker Washington did things we haven't necessarily seen in a regular season game for some time. 6 catches. I how many yards did he have? He had 80, what was it? 81. I'm going to double check.
I know he had more than 80.
I know he had more than 80. Yeah, it's the exact number I'm trying to get. According to this, it's 5 for 76. I guess they updated the stats, whatever. But anyways, that's what ESPN says. I just won't care. But the punchline is, because I thought he had 6 catches. This is weird. Anyways, so nonetheless, with Parker Washington turning in what he did, having a fantastic day in his own right, making huge catches, having big plays on days where the guys at the top of the depth chart may not have been, that's what you want to see. De'Ami Brown going 5 for 57 with a tutty. You don't get mad at that. Bhayshul, Tuten, and Travis Etienne both turning in touchdowns, their first of the season, and we're complaining about designated touch numbers for Brian Thomas Jr. You're wrong. Stand there in your wrongness and get used to it. This isn't the days where he's the only guy. That's done. I didn't get on here last week and prop up Brenton Strange so you can forget he exists. That's not what's going on here.
This is why I said earlier that the Jaguars' best opportunity to win this game was to keep the game close and run the ball, only because that was going to allow them to kind of limit the amount of opportunities that this other team was going to have. Unfortunately, I kind of thought that was with Joe Burrow playing, not with Jake Browning. I did not expect Jake Browning to come out here and put up freaking 30+ points. Like, I just didn't see that happening. Was wrong. I don't even know how to make that make sense in my head. It was simply, I was just wrong on it, and that's really unfortunate because I thought the Jaguars, to your point, played well in the run game. I mean, on the my Big Cat Country write-up after the game, I wrote, I gave the offensive game ball to the offensive line. I thought they did damn well.
Fascinating take. I like it.
I thought they did damn well. And I don't think any of the individual backs deserved it more than the other, more so that it was just, no, these guys did their job. They worked well, and they should have had multiple other opportunities to kind of close that game out that just never materialized because of different reasons on that final series. But nevertheless, I thought they had that opportunity, the Jacksonville Jaguars may have been walking away with the victory because that's how dominant they were on the ground today.
I'm going to get into this because I feel like it's going to be a talking point, and I want to make sure I'm not the problem. I'm not sure that it bothers me as much as others. Not a fan of the body language from BTJ and the disrespect of T-Law to his coach, or disrespect from T-Law to his coach. I don't perceive that. Is Social Alki? I'm not saying you're
not sure. What disrespect is he referencing?
So what it is, and I don't know if you saw it, but in the broadcast they showed Cohen saying hit him in the chest. There was the one ball that went too high. I forget if it was De'Ami.
Oh, no. Yeah. The high ball, I believe it was on second down.
Yeah.
And on like a hitch route or something along those lines.
It might have even been third. I don't remember precisely, but it was right before the BTJ drop at the end there. And then Cohen says, he's pounding his chest, hit him in the chest.
Hit him in the effing chest. Yes, that's what
he's yelling. Yeah. And they felt like T-Law just ignored him and just
looked off. That's disrespect. I mean, it's not disrespect.
He's in the middle of running an offense.
We gotta stop being sensitive, man. Like, I mean, and I don't know who has and has not played football before. This is an emotional game. It's a game full of gladiators. It's a game full of car accidents every play. If you consider that disrespect, then you would not do well in the NFL or a college locker room. That's not the case. I'm sorry. We're not
pro league.
Not right. Let's not say that. So that's not disrespect. That's just emotions flaring, and these guys will be guys being guys, and they'll be fine as of the next play. It's whatever.
So, and here's I'm seeing it a lot, and again, I'm not just picking on PJ's Brown has said it a lot in the comments. There's a lot of people saying in the comments focused on the number of times the ball was thrown.
The biggest issue here is not the number of times the ball is thrown. The biggest issue here is the number of times the Jacksonville Jaguars defense allowed the Cleveland Browns, the Cincinnati Bengals, they're both brown, man. The Cincinnati Bengals to move down the field so that the offense then had to continue doing. Like the offense put together multiple very long drives, and they were successful. Never lose sight of the fact that they were successful throwing the ball. They were successful running the ball. They were successful doing any effing thing they wanted to do today. Let's be clear about that. They were successful doing everything they wanted to do. The Jacksonville Jaguars' most competitive opponent on this glorious Sunday was not the Cincinnati Bengals. It was the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mm-hmm. Their penalties, their drops, their miscues getting in their own way, their tip balls, all of this. That is why the Jacksonville Jaguars lost this game, and not because of the Cincinnati Bengals. They achieved they did what they were supposed to do and just not making mistakes. But the Jaguars absolutely fumbled this thing away in every way.
And yeah, was it Social says he's talking about T-Law's response. Yeah, so are we. I mean, from our perspective, Cohen said what he said. He's going on to run the offense. I don't necessarily think what is he supposed to do? Start crying right there on the field? I don't know how you want him to respond precisely. And I'm not saying you're invalid. I just don't know what you're looking for. And again, You know what? Now I'm going to roast you, PJ. It doesn't matter. The ratio. The ball was moving. Dude's dropping the ball. It's better that than fumbling it, I suppose. Sure. That's not the issue here. The Jags were moving the ball. There was no difficulty.
I think he's saying shorten the game. I think he's saying, hey, if you are up, if you start the half up, then when you get on offense, start running the ball, shorten the game, and then get into the red zone and actually pass the ball.
But, okay, so then he's talking about more of us bringing it back to 3rd and 2, screaming to run the damn ball at the point. I don't know. At that point,
I think that's the talking point. That's the talking point. Like we all didn't watch the game, and I think we're smarter than that. And I believe our listeners are for the most part, smarter than this. So I'm going to give you guys the credit of being smarter than this, and don't use your emotions. Don't do that. Don't look at the box score. Give me your feelings when you were watching that game. When you were watching that game, you were not saying, let's run the ball. No, because they were moving down the field. The Jacksonville Jaguars they went for it on 4th down, and if they would have gotten that, you would have been happy with the outcome. They dropped the ball on the De'Ami Brown, the drop touchdown, and again, they got down there. They got the interception in the red zone by getting down there, passing the ball and running the ball. They were very balanced earlier on as far as that's concerned. So this is not that. Don't look at the box score and then be like, well, 43 times, that's why they lost the game. Rah, rah, rah. No, that's not okay. We're not doing that. That's reactionary at that point. Looking at that game, yes, they could have ran the ball a little bit early on 1st downs and things of that nature, but it was a successful game plan that only was unsuccessful because the guys just simply didn't capitalize. They dropped balls. They didn't do it. That's what it came down to.
There were turnovers, right? De'Ami Brown has a drop touchdown. BTJ has a drop at the end there.
4th down conversion, yeah.
Right, all that. Storm the Desert, I think, puts it best, and I think that'll put a kind of bow on what I think of this concept overall. Jags should have won by 2 scores instead. They lost. The Jags lost to the Jags. I think that's the best way to enunciate it.
That's correct. That is the outcome.
And there's plenty of reasons to be frustrated. You lost to Jake Browning, while Shamar Stewart and Geno Stone, both defensive starters, had to leave the game as well. That's frustrating. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking anything away from that. Then don't beat yourself in the face, Cletus.
You lost with 3 turnovers on defense. Again, 3 turnovers on defense, while you also gave up. Did they give up 3 turnovers also? No, I'm sorry. 2 turnovers and a turnover on downs is what it was. The
Right. It was
Jaguars
three
ended up giving
takeaways, 2 turnovers, right?
three turnovers overall, if you count the turnovers on downs. And the Cincinnati Bengals won the turnovers on downs conversation. And that became the most important statistic of the game. Is the fact of the matter is this, the damn, I keep saying the Cleveland Browns. The Cincinnati Bengals.
Because the Browns wear orange too.
The Cincinnati Bengals had 17 points off of turnovers. If you count the turnover on downs toward the end of the game, and the Jacksonville Jaguars scored 7 points off turnovers. There's your difference. If they kick the field goal instead of going for the touchdown, then you're 17-10, but you still are down 7 points simply because you aren't able to capitalize when you get those turnovers. That's what it was.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's I can't even put it any better. And there's still people going on about the number of runs versus that. Go argue with your mama. We tried to tell you about that already. So no, I mean, it's I think that's what's most frustrating. We could get into how many times this happened versus that happened, or what dropped this, what that. It's the untimely plays that
the untimely plays.
Yeah, I can't put it better than untimely plays. Turnovers. Whether it's the Jags' fault or there was some referee, how you say, interference in the case of Hunter's play, whatever. There's too many unfortunate plays that the Jags were on the right side of, and the more of those you put on yourself, statistically speaking, football is the game where you have the most opportunity for things to go right or wrong because there's fewer snaps or opportunities.
Exactly. We talked about this all offseason. We talked about this last week. It was like eventually you want to go against a good team and you're going to be unsuccessful if you don't get out of your own way. We knew that's what it was going to be. And again, if you can say they only had the 6 penalties today, but no, they had 11 penalties overall. Just like last week when they had 11 penalties, but they actually had 13 if you count the declined penalties because the play was unsuccessful. It's the same thing here, man. You got to get out of your own way. You cannot go against a team with those kinds of skilled players and also have to beat yourself and beat them and beat the refs. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. You're going to have 1 or 2 calls that's going to be unsuccessful. That's NFL football, especially playing on the road. This is how this works. But you can't beat everybody. You can't make yourself have more adversity by creating it in your own home. Now, unfortunately, that's just what happened today. Jacksonville Jaguars couldn't get out of their own way to just and only beat the Cincinnati Bengals. See, I caught myself. So at the end of the day, man, that's what it comes down to. We all saw this coming in a lot of ways. Like, I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars would win today. I predicted that they would win with a very similar score, just flip it. But I also thought the Jaguars would be a little bit cleaner as far as their drops, a little bit cleaner as far as their penalties, and just a little bit cleaner as far as those untimely plays. I also called a defensive touchdown, which should have happened not once, but freaking twice. If you count the quote-unquote fumble, fumble that wasn't a fumble as far as Trevon Walker hitting Joe Burrow's hand and the ball going backwards.
Yeah, they were focused on the forward motion. I agree.
Right. I thought that was the fumble, and everybody's looking at me like, is this really a touchdown that you called? No. They reviewed it and said it wasn't. But then you have the Devin Lloyd play that absolutely was a touchdown, and the referee blowed it dead on the field. Right. The only play they did that the whole game. They let every other play run its course and then would say it's an incomplete pass or whatever else. But then on Devin Lloyd, they call it dead because Jaguars.
So we count 3 unfortunate plays, or 2 if you don't even want to include the Trevon Walker one. That's fine. Yeah. Well, no, I'm going to count it because they lost the timeout with the challenge. So you got 3 untimely plays. And Social, I got to tell you, this is what I think what we're talking about is to clean up that. What should we, what you ask, what should we be saying? What you shouldn't be worried about in this particular game is whether they ran the ball this many times or passed it this many times. This isn't what this game came down to.
That's where I think that's where people's talking points are going to come from, because y'all are smarter than box score watchers. I believe that you all are, because you're listening to our podcast.
They've proven it because they've asked questions that.
Right. They're asking questions that actually have merit generally. You're smarter than box score watchers. Don't be that. Don't be the fantasy football crowd. No. Y'all watch the game. Y'all know how this went. And that's not what happened. The Jaguars didn't lose this game because they didn't run the ball more. Could they have won had they run the ball more? Possibly. Maybe even likely, especially now that we're looking at this with hindsight. But also, they were moving the ball downfield via the pass and the run, and they were successful in doing that. And I simply think that they just didn't achieve the goal because they dropped balls They threw interceptions untimely. And frankly, Trevor Lawrence could have thrown 2 to 3 more interceptions in this game. And folks aren't even talking about that part right now. Let's be real clear about that. The tip ball comeback to Travis Hunter that could have been a third interception in the first half. We're not even discussing that. Like there was the Hail Mary that Travis Hunter almost caught that shouldn't have been thrown. Could have been a fourth interception. We ain't talking about none of that. Like there were some wild plays in this game where the team just acted like this was everything. They acted like they did the opposite of what we told them earlier in the week, to treat this like every other game. Because we said if you treat this like every other game, you won't play outside of yourself. And in very many ways, they played outside of themselves and just trying to act like everything's on the line on this third down conversion, like punting isn't a thing, or like kicking a field goal isn't a thing. And that's very unfortunate because I think they had this game in their hands and they just let it slip right through.
Yeah, and I think this is a good point Timmy Devil makes. I'm encouraged about how we looked. Not every team has a Chase and Higgins. We have a good team. I think there's some there. One of the TV announcers, I don't know his name. It's probably better I don't because I would just crap all over him here. But like kept saying, "Oh, you should double team Jamar Chase." What happened next series? T. Higgins one shots.
Well, no, I believe on the touchdown play to the one that Jarian gave up to the guy who caught it with one hand, they were doubling Jamar Chase on that play.
Oh, okay. Well, sure, but that's
didn't work out well.
That's even another point over and above. You don't double team Jamar Chase because T. Higgins is on the other side, and I think that's Timmy Devil's point. Not many teams have a 1-2 punch like that in the air. We've said that throughout the week.
Too. Yeah, but you got to find a way to beat teams like that too, and that's unfortunate.
Well, I'll put it this way: for a game that the Jags had 2 turnovers on offense, the defense got it back 3 times. Right, they got 3 takeaways. They lost only by 4. Yes, it's to a backup quarterback. I know that has that frustrations. I'm wondering if it's a Campanelli piece because I felt too often on third and shorter plays that there wasn't enough aggression, but I guess they're scared of getting beat over the top too. It's a hard conversation to have.
Correct.
But listen, at the end of the day, this game was going to be close anyway, right? I think you had a 4-point differential. I know I had a 3.1. I called the Bengals winning this game, so maybe that's the reason why I'm not as heavily traumatized.
No, I had the Jaguars winning by 8, and I thought when Joe Burrow left that game, if he would have come back the next series, I thought that's exactly what would have happened. Joe Burrow struggled against this Vic Fangio defense, and I thought, unfortunately, Jake Browning understood it very clearly. He just doesn't have the skill set of Joe Burrow. But he doesn't have to. He has Jamar Chase. He has a Hulk. And he just threw it up to that dude and was just like, yeah, no, that's fine. I got him. He opened down there somewhere and just treat him like moss. And whether it was him or whether it was T. Higgins, the Jaguars defense could not keep up. And maybe there'll be better times next week. We'll see.
So with that in mind, let me go ahead and cut you loose so you could do the thing. Where can the people find you? To get, for one, I know they can find you on Big Cat Country to get your takes from the game in particular there too. But where else can they find you, my friend?
Oh, you can find me on all the socials. Travis D. Holmes. You can find me on BigCatCountry.com. I write up a post-game write-up discussing the biggest plays of the game, the takeaways, our lingering questions after today's matchup, and kind of what's next for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yeah, if you listen to the sound of my voice, please like and subscribe on the Duval Dive YouTube, rate and review us wherever you catch our podcast. And for the most part, we're going to keep this thing moving along. I mean, there's Houston next week, and the team is 1-1. It's not woe is me. It's not gloom and doom and all of these things because they lost a game that they absolutely should have won. But also be clear, before the season, you knew that the Jaguars, most people had this game circled as a loss for the Jaguars, and they absolutely should have won it. So at the end of the day, they're still fine. They're 0-0 in the AFC South. It'll be fine. Chew on it tonight. Feel better tomorrow morning. And, go Jags. And, yeah, let them know where you can be found, sir.
Of course, I'm Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a student of the game. Check out the Fans First Sports Network, where I write about your Jacksonville Jaguars, as well as the Orlando Magic, and my work covering the UCF Knights football and basketball, Black and Gold, Banneret, and Night Shift podcast, plus my work with the Bolt Blitz Uncut, covering the Los Angeles Chargers. There'll be a post-game reaction show for that if you're interested in that, to check out Booga Peters and Buck D talking about the Chargers after that game. So, for my personal champion, Travis T. Holmes is Kyle Nash, student of the game. All you Duval divers in there, I know it wasn't the result you wanted, but you were still great in the comments. Made for a fun show, as fun as it could be for you guys in the unfortunate result. But until next time, everyone, class dismissed.